Welcome to MotoMouths, the podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. I'm your host, Zoe, and it's Golden Hour.
I'm your other host, also named Zoe, and that is the title of Casey Musgrave's hit album that she has never once made anything better than. Just gonna say it.
My opinion, exactly.
Listen, same trailer, different park. Iconic. Amazing.
Amazing.
Golden Hour will never be topped.
Pageant material, also good.
Oh, pageant material is so good.
The first three, all hits, no skips.
Banger after banger after banger.
The last two, moving on.
Moving on. That's all that needs to be said. Anyways, we're actually not a Casey Musgraves podcast, but you get to hear a little bit about our opinion. Should we talk about motorsports?
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about, so hang in with us, you guys.
This is going to be a long one, I think.
Probably.
So Barcelona.
Barcelona. The famous location of the best Cheetah Girls movie.
I'm so glad you said this because you are correct.
Right. So yes, you know, Barcelona famous, I think, firstly for being the location of the best Cheetah Girls movie and also for having some racetracks, you know, as one does. I will say, okay, like there are, I think, three big storylines, probably four from this weekend that I want to talk about. First is, of course, the saga of when is Marc Marquez going to win the championship continues. And I don't know how I want to feel about it.
Yeah, you reverse cursed.
Yeah.
Alex Marquez. The reverse curse went away for a little while and now it's back. And it came back in a big way.
It's back in a big way. So on Saturday, Alex did crash out of the sprint. He was in the lead, which ended up leaving Marc to win. This is the moment in which I texted you. I'm shaking. I think we're going to get Misano. And you said, I know, because I was watching really late because also I was at a wedding this weekend. It's a whole other story. And then Alex, to his credit, took that personally.
He did take that personally.
And came back on Sunday to kind of dominate.
Alex Marquez is the FBI agent monitoring your social media and text messages.
No, he gets an update every couple of days and is like, this bitch seems too happy. This one chick in the United States. What's going on there? No, but I do think it's interesting. When he crashed out of the sprint, one of the things he said later this weekend is he crashed out when he did, I think it was turn 7 or 10. And he was saying that he was feeling too confident. And so he just kind of washed the front.
Okay, queen.
And learning that and like obviously internalizing that lesson of, hey, babe, you might be the fastest guy here. Like you still have to rein it in like a little bit. Helped him win on Sunday, which you know what? Like he's had a rough month or so. So I'll take it.
Right.
We love growth. We love
growth.
All that means is that Marc Marquez is going to win the championship in Motegi.
And yes, in Japan.
That's what's going to happen there. And you know what? Like, I think I am kind of coming around to it. I do think like maybe I'm buying into the conspiracy, but like, do you think that maybe there's a small part of Marc that was like, I know I want to tie this up as soon as possible, but I don't want it to be Misano.
He wants an uncomplicated win.
Right. If I were to project, if I were to make an assumption, I could see there being a world in which he would want it not to be Misano because one, this championship is tied up with Valentino Rossi's legacy in a way that he will never be able to undo. But like maybe winning it not in Misano could be something.
Right.
I don't know. Is there a conspiracy? Who's to say? Not me.
Probably not.
I do just think it's like he was so jazzed for Alex on Sunday.
He was just so jazzed for Alex.
It was so cute.
Their celebrations this weekend when they got on like the blob.
Yeah.
I was like, launch him into a lake.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Literally, it was a blob.
It was the blob at my summer camp. I just like in the second he saw Alex was down, he said, I'm not helping you up. I'm tackling you. It was the Cain and Abel instinct.
Yeah.
It was so cute. It was so cute.
It was really cute.
But yeah, was I kind of hoping for a Misano? Yes. Am I upset with how it's going now? No, because I do think this is one of those tracks where it's like, yeah, if Alex was going to win, it would have been this one. He clearly had a bit of a leg up on Marc for pace. I think that was obvious from the first session. Not much, but he still had better pace than Marc did. And, you know, we've talked about Alex's kind of mid-season slump. I totally forgot he broke like bones in his hand in Assen.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's on me.
Sorry, Alex. We forgot about that.
And then like the penalties, I think were his fault. And then he had a couple DNFs that I think, you know, weren't not his fault,
but weren't his fault.
Right. A lot of negatives there. So I think, he needed this. And on Sunday, at the very least, I think it was just one of those moments of Alex just shining and showing what he can do when he can deliver his absolute best. And I think that was great. And I've seen people talking about this. I'm interested in your take. This seems to be the first time that Mark kind of was beaten on merit.
Yeah. I was thinking about that because going into it, we were talking about how Mark doesn't, quote unquote, like this track, and Alex does really like it. And I could tell that if it were not merit, it was certainly a level of comfortability that even after crashing on Saturday, Alex seemed a lot more sure and comfortable on the bike.
I totally agree.
So I don't know if it was 100% merit. I think if it were a track where Mark is more comfortable, I think Mark would have won.
When we look at pace, their pace was really similar. Here's the other thing. So at the end of the track, before you enter like the really fucking long straight at like that base, there are, I can't remember exactly, 2 to 3 right-handers. It's like a right and then a hairpin and then a right and then a soft right and then a soft right. So there's like 4 right-handers at the last section before you hit the straight. Mark, as we all know, is amazing on the left-handers. Even before his injury, he was never great with right-handers. Alex, conversely, and there's a really interesting chicken and the egg conversation about like how that came about. Alex, conversely, is really good at right-handers. So you kind of wonder like, okay, they've been training together their whole lives. Mark has always been good at left-handers. So you think there's on some level Alex knowing that. Anyways.
No, you know what it was? Mark Marquez's seat in the back seat was on the left.
No,
and
totally.
Alex's was on the right.
Totally.
And that's where their
RV.
seats were, in the RV or in the minivan.
Right. So when you get to those 4 right-handers, Alex is able to open up and get a lot more speed, entry and exit on those corners in a way Mark just can't. And then he's not set up for success to get into the slipstream and past Alex down the whole straight. So it like truly, I do think this happened to be one of those tracks where Alex was a little bit faster than Mark. Alex was faster than Mark in the places that it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex was a lot more comfortable on the bike and track. Because here's my thing. If you watch the whole weekend, Mark didn't top any session. And almost every time you saw him in the box, he was agitated talking to his team. There was something about it. He hasn't said anything because Mark doesn't complain about the bike publicly. He just doesn't. I think there was something about this bike and the weekend that didn't jive. I think something was going on. That's my conspiracy. But yeah, congrats to Alex. I really good for him.
It was really
I think he
enjoyable
deserved
to
it.
see. Should we look at our predictions before getting into the rest of the weekend?
Yes.
Okay. So you said a Marc Marquez P1. You said Marco Bezzecchi P2.
Okay.
And I did Gio P3. And then you made a bonus prediction of a Pecco P4.
Okay, listen.
And then Fail King was Alex Marquez. Reverse curse.
With Alex, I wasn't right and I wasn't wrong, you know?
You were half right. I said Mark P1, Fabio Quartararo P2.
We do need to talk about Fabio.
Bez P3. And my Fail King was Fermin Aldeguer. How'd he do?
Bad.
Great. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is Pecco's suicide watch.
No, like literally.
Is he okay?
And the crazy thing is like Pecco is a level of delusional that I am both concerned about and impressed with.
No, it's like he's disassociating very hard.
And we're all just here watching.
Not in a cute way. And it's also just the moment of the garage door closing while he like sat there. I was like, I don't think we should be watching this.
Q1 this weekend was crazy because the 4 most recent MotoGP world champions were in it. Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia, Fabio Quartararo, and Joan Mir were all in Q1. And Pecco didn't even make it out. Pecco started P21, I think.
My God.
Like, I sat there and I was watching and I was like, I don't think I should be watching this.
We say it can't get any worse.
And then it continues to get worse.
It continues to get worse.
It's so rough.
And then his Instagram story.
Oh, his hostage note?
Yeah, his hostage note. Exactly.
Okay, he does this all the time. It's so, like, genuinely, my read of the 2025 Ducati factory team is Pecco dying in the World War I trenches and like writing a note back to his loved ones.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Mark is like tearing it the fuck up at Chuck E. Cheese.
It's the perfect description.
And their vibes are so different.
It's so different.
So
one
different.
Is haunted by the horrors, and one is having the time of his life.
Difficult to imagine doing better than 7th place.
My God.
Maybe I'm also delusional because anytime Pecco says something that he feels confident about, I'm like, oh my God, he's back. And I like, just in open honesty, I will probably continue to be that way because it's just hard to watch.
Yeah.
So last time out, he was like, oh, we found something in the setup that is a big change. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And then we find out he wasn't using any of that setup for this weekend. He was using his Barcelona 2024 setup. And I don't understand. And I understand that I'm not an engineer, nor do I race motorcycles. So I'm very unqualified, but I don't understand.
I don't understand.
It has been fun watching everyone else talk about this because it just really seems like people are done with it.
Yeah.
It really genuinely seems that way. I was listening to, I think it was Oxley-Bomb. They were talking about a comment Mark made about someone else way earlier this season where they were talking about bike setups. And Mark was like, if you have tried, again, I'm paraphrasing, if you've tried like a million things changing the bike and it's not going the way that you want it to, and you're not getting that feeling, you need to figure yourself out. Like, you got to stop changing the bike because that's not the issue. And Casey Stoner, they were talking about Casey Stoner, who said something similar. Casey said years ago, you have to figure out what the bike wants. Like, you have to listen to what the bike is saying and kind of mold yourself to that.
Yeah.
Again, paraphrasing. And it's so interesting that like there's been this kind of constant talk around Pecco and the GP25 that Ducati is refusing to talk about any of this like mystery around the GP25 of like, is it bad? And people are like, I think it's bad. So it's just an interesting thing of like, I think we've spent the last couple of months of people kind of progressively getting sick of Pecco constantly talking about how bad the bike is and never really looking like he's trying to like do what he needs to do, which is figure out how to ride around it. He and Fabio Di Giannantonio had similar things to say this weekend of like, we need to stop like messing with the bike, you know, just this is the bike that we have, which is interesting because according to the rules, Ducati can just bring the GP24 to race in 2026 with the serial numbers filed off and kind of just ignore this whole situation, which is why I think they're not talking about it. I think they're just trying to shove it under. It's rough for Pecco, is all I'm trying to say.
It's rough.
I think it's rough and it's not going to get better. He just kind of needs to buckle down and figure it out for next year. And honestly, just really push internally to like build a bike he can fucking ride.
And I can't emphasize this enough. He needs to move in silence. He needs to stop saying every 5 seconds, I think we figured it out, only for you to not figure it out. You need to move in silence.
This is literally what Valentino Rossi is there for, is to figure out how to make your public appearance stronger. And he's being a deadbeat dad in the great state of Texas, per usual. Okay, enough about Pecco's very bad, no good 2025. We need to talk about Honda versus Yamaha. And this is also where we can talk about Fabio Quartararo, who is somehow hauling that bike around.
I was about to say, I kind of had my Fabio Quartararo radar pinging when I made the predictions. He had a really good weekend.
He did. And here's my thing. So Yamaha's been running an inline 4 engine. Pretty sure that's what they're calling it. For years. Everyone else on the grid is running a V4. They've put it off for years and years because they're like, well, we're confident in like the project that we have. It's bad. It's bad. Everyone's done that for years. So they're starting the V4. They're running it in tests. One of the Yamaha guys is supposed to be running it in Misano. The bike is reportedly bad.
Right.
It's reportedly very slow. There's a whole conversation about development and like investing and process in that we, I think, can talk about at the end of the season. But Yamaha, for some reason, is essentially like splitting their resources and investments right now in a very strange position they've put themselves in with developing the V4, paying for Fabio Quartararo's exorbitant salary, and also developing the inline 4 bike that they are currently running and will be sunsetting at the end of this year. I'm giving you all that information to make my point that like things are not great at Yamaha right now. Yeah. And it's crazy
that Fabio's doing so well.
Dragging that bike in a place where it should not be.
Yeah. And looking so sexy while he does it.
Yeah, pearls out. Like, come on.
The pearls, iconic, cunty, incredible.
It's been a while since he's done that. So I saw that and I was like, wow, we're back, baby. But it's crazy to me too, because I think they're in a weird spot with the inline four that is currently racing, where they're trying not to invest in it too heavily because they know that the V4 is coming and they want to try and work on that more. Mm-hmm. And yet Fabio is like a competitor at heart. And so I think he gets very, very frustrated when he doesn't have a good bike under him. So they're in this weird push and pull place. And yet Fabio is putting that bike where it arguably doesn't really deserve to be. So then Honda is also in their similar position of taking kind of itty-bitty steps forward, to the extent that Luca Marini was pissed.
Yeah.
This weekend with his finish of P8.
Yep. Okay.
Not good enough for Mr. Marini. And to that, I say, great job.
Listen, Honda has had so much of a better season than I think you and I or anyone was predicting.
An LCR guy won a race.
Yes.
Yeah, and then was on the podium again.
Who we continue to forget about, won a race on a fuck-ass Honda.
And then was on, I think, 2 other podiums.
Doing his backflips.
Doing his thing. You know, different house. But I want to have like a major shout out for Ayagura.
Yeah.
Who finished on Sunday in P6.
Rookie of the year for real.
No, I like straight up. I am slowly but surely joining the Furman Aldeguer train. But I think Furman has a kind of bump up because he's on the GP24. And I really honestly think I is rookie of the year for me. I did just want to dunk on Pedro Acosta for like 20 seconds. For the GP on Sunday, he was the only one on the entire grid that went for a soft tire for a 24-lap race. And there's not much I can really make fun of him for because he did end the race in P4. He should have, based on his pace all weekend, and if he'd gone with a medium, he should have been on the podium. But because of his soft fucking tire, he lost. I think they hit like lap 14 and he started dropping on average 5 to 6 tenths per lap because his tire just disappeared. And then full credit to Enea Bastianini took advantage of that.
Very much so.
Very much so. Which is a segue into, I think, my least favorite talking point of the weekend.
Yeah.
The introduction of Guenther Steiner into MotoGP.
Boo.
Tomato, tomato, tomato.
I don't want it.
No, like, leave her alone, get a job.
Literally, get a job, leave her alone. Stay away from her.
It's really fucking annoying.
I am on the record as saying what people think Guenther Steiner is what Fred Vasseur actually is.
I totally agree.
And Guenther Steiner is just annoying.
I completely agree. So here's the thing. Quick hit on the news item is that Guenther Steiner has moved into MotoGP as the head of a consortium that has acquired the Red Bull KTM Tech3 MotoGP team. So he is a representative of what I think is something like an investment fund.
Probably.
That has acquired Tech3.
Or a group of wealthy individuals who went in on this.
I do think there's like a part of the consortium is like an investment fund that has something to do with like actual athletes. So I think like Lando Norris is tied to it. Funnily enough, Miguel Oliveira is. So I don't know what the tax situation is for there, but that's interesting.
Okay, Mario Lemieux.
Anyways, what this means is that Guenther Steiner is unequivocally part of MotoGP now. What it kind of is looking like in practice is Guenther Steiner is the CEO and there will be a separate team principal. So Tech3, as it exists right now, is owned by Hervé Poncharal. Dude's almost 70. He's been around in MotoGP pretty much his entire life.
Retirement time.
If you look back at the history of the sport, and I was thinking about you when I was kind of prepping this episode, where we were talking a couple of months ago about how Drive to Survive, quote unquote, like lowered the sport to the average person as an audience.
It became more accessible. Yes.
MotoGP has always been the
accessible.
Average person.
Yes.
MotoGP back in the day used to be guys showing up in vans wanting to race bikes fast. Hervé Poncharal was around when that's what it was. He's old. I think this is also very much informed by everything that's been going on with KTM in the last 8 months. last year. He specifically went on record and said that, there was a lot of uncertainty about KTM's financial difficulties, like where do I as an independent team stand and that if that were to happen. So he wanted some stability from an outside party. And seasons are getting longer and longer. It doesn't make sense for him to be traveling as much as he is.
Also, dude's 70.
Old. I think Liberty coming in was one of those things that Guenther Steiner and his, consortium were like, this is probably going to be a thing now. I hate to say that Guenther Steiner is similar to us in any way, but whatever. And so I think they're seeing this as like a legitimate investment. My concern, and I think this is a lot of people's concern, is that MotoGP and F1 are very different creatures.
Yes.
Very different creatures. You will not get the same return as a sponsor or as an owner that you might in F1.
Yes.
Full stop. You won't get that.
This is not, teams at the very least, absent from the riders. This is not a big money making sport.
No. I think there was also an interesting comment. This was on the Paddock Pass podcast I was listening to. They were talking about how when you think about bringing in third party, sponsorship or ownership, the tobacco companies were all in on MotoGP. And then regulation came down and they all had to pull out very quickly. And the foundation of the sport almost crumbled because suddenly there was no money. I think there's another concern when it comes to third-party ownership is the thing we see all the time now, at least in the States, about private equity coming in, purchasing things like veterinary practices and then expecting an ROI. And then when they don't get it, they sell at a loss or they essentially declare bankruptcy.
Let it fail
to get some kind of return back. I think ultimately, like the major concern I'm seeing people who've been in the sport for years and years talk about is there needs to be an understanding of this is not a money-making thing right now, and it probably won't be for a while.
This is not a bunny rabbit that you get at Easter and then return when you don't want it in 2 weeks.
You need to actually put the time and invest. You need to love racing. It's not F1 now. I'm in the advertising agency industry, and the data on the audiences you reach when you're part of F1 is unlike anything else.
It's bonkers.
MotoGP is not like that. No. You do not get the kind of reach that could make up potentially for not getting your return back on a sponsorship. That is not happening in MotoGP, and I think it's a major concern for teams because Dorna is now approaching other teams with offers from people to buy them.
And I will say too, I think that MotoGP has the potential to become big like F1. But
I
that's
totally
not
agree.
Gonna happen for at minimum a decade. Because
I think 7 years is like the quickest earliest. It could happen.
Because F1 was also on the brink of, if not extinction, a very big loss to the sport when Bernie Eccleston sold it to Liberty Media.
Right. Dorna's new marketing person is an ex-Red Bull F1 hire. And I listened to an interview with her a couple of months ago, and she basically was saying, hey, like MotoGP can't copy and paste Drive to Survive.
No.
Like we can't make that happen for a variety of reasons. Most of all, because we have no idea the impact COVID had on that entire situation. We know that it had an impact. We can't quantify it, and we cannot make it happen again.
And I think that you can kind of extrapolate some, circumstantial evidence by all of these other fucking sports series that have come out and how they have yet to find one that reaches the depths of success as Drive to Survive.
And even if you weren't extrapolating that learning, the market is now oversaturated.
So oversaturated.
It's not feasible right now. So
even if Liberty comes in, even if they do find some pot of gold with something akin to Drive to Survive, and they get some modicum of success, if we look at the time distance between Liberty Media purchasing F1 and F1
kind of coming into the black
and having this major surge in popularity, it's like 7 years, 10 years.
Yeah, I think 10 years is the way it's going to happen for MotoGP, if we're being honest.
We've talked about this, that there's probably going to be a lot of increased interest from F1 fans. I think that it could do more harm than good to rush F1 fans into MotoGP, because I don't think that the change in MotoGP, the content production, the behind the scenes, the storylines, all of that, that's not going to come about fast enough for today's F1 audience. and they're going to get bored and they're going to turn away from it. We're already seeing it happen in F1 itself.
I completely agree. Something else people have been talking about is Dorna, because right now it is Dorna. Like Liberty, the deal went through, but there's no way they've solidified any of their like internal setup, teams, processing. Nothing of that is set up. So at this moment in time, Dorna as an organization is not prepared to operate at the level F1 does.
No, not at all.
At any stretch of the imagination.
They do not have the infrastructure in place.
One of the things floating around right now in this conversation is the fact that Red Bull's F1 team, their marketing department is like 223 people.
And by the way, that's just the F1 team. Red Bull has an entire global content division.
Right. Separate from the Red Bull product marketing team.
Correct.
That's a whole other revenue stream. Dorna, 6 months ago, did not have a marketing department. So like genuinely, Dorna is not set up to be successful. Anyways, circling back to the Guenther Steiner of it all, I think it makes sense that we are getting an F1 personality connected to this the second that Liberty got involved.
And Liberty's pet personality.
Right. What frustrates me the most about this situation is that it seems like listening to people in the MotoGP ecosystem who frustratingly, because of this conversation, not just frustratingly in general, are openly admitting that they have zero context about F1 outside of Drive to Survive or haven't even watched the show, are talking about Guenther Steiner as God's gift to MotoGP.
Oh my God.
And so it's very frustrating as like an F1 fan to watch this when you're like, Guenther Steiner led Haas for years and ran that team into the ground.
No success whatsoever.
None. Actively hemorrhaging money.
Series of bad choices over
treated
and
his teams
over
like shit.
Again. Treated his drivers like shit. Treated his employee. I mean, Haas as an entire, we can't talk about how Haas as an entire everything is completely fucked because you've got two arms of a company, one operating in North Carolina and the other operating in fucking England. We can't get into all of that. We don't have time to unpack all of that, but I think that if you are a sole MotoGP fan,
I would be very concerned about Guenther Steiner being
I would be wary of him.
That's what I mean, where it's like, it's frustrating to hear people talk about him as if he's going to like bring the sport into the light, which I don't. Really
and
think
I
is
can't
true.
emphasize this enough, not German.
Right. Which is like, whatever.
Fully Italian.
I don't know, man. We'll see. Okay. Next week, we are going to Misano. Let's do rapid fire predictions.
Rapid fire predictions. Mark, P1. I think Bez is going to come back B2. I'm going to say a Fabio Quartararo P3.
Okay.
Pecco Bagnaia.
Okay. I'm going to go with a Mark P1. He has won this track, I think, the most times anyone in history has ever won it. So keep that going. I am going to go with an Alex P2.
Okay.
I think he's got some momentum. I think he's feeling good. And then also I would love to see two Marquezes on the podium at Misano. Just me.
Can Alex P2 extend the match point past Japan?
I don't think so. I don't know. He can crash out of the sprint safely.
All right.
And then a Bez P3. And then I'm going to go with the Frankie Morbidelli Fail King. And then I'm going to go for Pecco just as a bonus because we talk about him. I'm going to go with a P8. I don't know why. Feels good. Feels right.
So I think that brings us to the great wide world of motorsports.
It sure does.
Whack.
Mr.
Valentino Rossi was P2 at the Lone Star Le Mans.
This is a win to me.
Okay.
This is a win to me. I will take it.
Cowboy hat.
Little cowboy hat action.
I love how Coda does the cowboy hats. Moving on to the other wide world of sports.
We got a lot to talk about.
Monza is for dreamers, baby!
Yes.
Woo!
In my notes, I said Monza is for dreamers and also Max Verstappen fans.
Remember how I said last weekend was my favorite weekend of the year?
I think this might be my favorite weekend of the year.
I think this might be my favorite weekend of the year. So much happened.
Let's talk about Max Verstappen's dream weekend.
What I like is that it started off like any other weekend. There was a little bit of teasing that the Ferraris might be good.
Yeah, they looked really solid in the first two sessions.
Carlos Sainz was doing really well.
Right.
Big bait and switch.
It was, I didn't get the chance to watch the first few sessions, wedding weekend, but I was looking at the timesheets once the sessions had ended and I was like, holy shit, like maybe Ferrari can make this work. And, they didn't, but that's okay.
Then we get to qualifying. Qualifying is really interesting. I think one story that has gotten kind of lost in the noise of the weekend is that George Russell was doing really well in the mediums and asked to be put out on the mediums for Q3.
I saw this.
They didn't. They put him on the softs. And everything was so much all the time that I think everyone has just kind of blown past this. That's fucking wild.
I think it's really funny because we're always talking about drivers essentially being in the car and being like, no, fuck you, I'm going to run the strategy I want to run.
Right.
And we think that's great. And then it's like, we're always really incensed about teams just like gaslighting drivers and doing whatever they want. And I think we're right to be upset. I think they had some data that they were like, this is better. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, it was a weird situation. We get to the last runs. Max Verstappen has put in an incredible lap already.
Right.
So people are coming past the line and they're not beating Max's time until Lando comes past the line and he does beat Max's time. And everyone starts choking on his cock.
Per usual.
And then what does Max Verstappen do?
He said, hold my beer. Hold my Heineken.
Hold my gin and tonic. I'm going to set not only a record-setting lap at Monza, not only get pole, I'm going to set the fastest lap ever recorded in F1 history.
And it was great. And then he didn't stop.
And then it just kept getting better and better and better because he kept the fastest laps going, baby.
Okay, so we have Max starting P1, Lando Norris starting P2, Oscar Piastri was P3, Charles Leclerc was P4, Lewis was back there.
Fernando was in Q3.
Mm-hmm. Yuki
and Gabby.
Yes, Gabby.
I know, he had a good weekend. He had a really good weekend.
He did. Lap 1 shenanigans we must discuss. Here's what I thought was really funny. So we start with Max on pole, Lando on P2. I think we talked a lot about at Zandvoort, Max really just like putting his faith in himself and in the car.
Yes.
And I think this is another one of those examples. Yep. There's just like this confidence he has. And it's also one of the things I love about Marc Marquez. Mm-hmm. They have a level of confidence in themselves that I think is at the same time completely validated by all of their behavior and also completely unfounded. It is so funny. I could spend months talking about them.
It is a psychological nightmare, but it's so fascinating.
Right. I think in the first 2 corners, which are insane corners when you start lap 1 of Monza, he basically said, listen, I'm going to do whatever I can to hold P1 and then I'll deal with the consequences as they come.
100%.
So he ends up essentially cutting the corner by going off the racing line. Keeps P1. Lando Norris, reasonably so, is like, hey guys.
He overtook off track.
He needs to give the position back. The stewards make an official. It's noted. We're investigating. That is the second that Red Bull says, Max, give it back, which I think is another indication of Red Bull finally getting their thumb out of their asses and like racing again. Mm-hmm. Like the juggernaut that they are with brains that I know that they have and saying, we're going to hold on to it for as long as we can until we think that they're going to give us a penalty and then we're going to give it right back.
Right.
Which is what happened. He gives it back. They race for a little bit. Oscar Piastri and Charles Leclerc are like slapping at each other in P3 and 4. So they come into contention really quick. They get right up on top of Max very quickly. And then somehow, fucking out of nowhere, I think Max cuts down like a 1.5 second lead that Lando has on him incredibly quickly.
Yes.
And overtakes for P1.
A move that Lando Norris could never do.
Correct. I remember watching the gap between Lando and Max open up, and I remember seeing Piastri like haul Leclerc up to Max, and I was just like, I know we're like on lap 2, but I don't know where this goes from here. And then within a lap and a half, Max is on top of Lando. It was crazy.
It was the sheer confidence, ability, pedal to the metal belief that you need to have to cut a lead down that much.
At Monza, nonetheless. Like we were talking about this last weekend, that Lando had kind of settled into this understanding that he was never going to quite catch up to Oscar. Max Verstappen never thinks that. Right. Never.
He says, I'm gonna overtake. I will do it. And then he fucking did and did not let up once.
And then this is when he starts almost every other lap giving us the fastest lap of the race.
Fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap. Fastest laps all the way down.
I think he was on softs too, right?
Yes.
Crazy.
fastest race ever raced in F1 history.
Can I just say, this race weekend felt so nostalgic and comfortable for me.
It was so 2023 coded.
Right. It felt
great.
It felt like Red Bull 2023. It felt like Max 2023. And I know that is not a unique feeling, because now everyone is talking about how Max is still mathematically in contention for the championship. Helmut Marko,
I love
may
delusion.
he rest in fucking pieces, said, Baku is a fast track, so I'm very positive about that, and I have hope for Singapore. With this spirit, anything is possible. Max is so motivated as well. I haven't seen that in him in a long time. He's not talking about racing GT anymore.
Okay, he did just announce that he is going to Nordschleife this weekend. So I don't know about that, but I'm loving the delusion.
Okay, old man.
Pop off, king. Pop off, Crypt Keeper.
Literally. And then watching the Tifosi sing
celebrate him
Max's song loud enough that you could not even hear any of the national anthems at Monza for Max.
What's so crazy is too, just to keep on the vintage Red Bull of it all, it was towards the end where GP came on the radio and he said, all right, no threat, Max, let's bring it home, just bring it home safe. And Max said,
no risk, full push.
No risk, full push. And I was like, yes, this is Max Verstappen.
He was glowing. He was glowing the whole weekend.
It was so good. And then also, it's a segue into our favorite moment of the weekend. We got 2023 Max being bitchy and gossipy on the radio with GP back too.
I will say, it is really funny to watch people talk about this. And they're like, wow, GP just for no reason was sharing the tea. And I'm like, okay, first of all, one, GP is a gossipy hoe. And I love that about him.
Yeah.
Two, Max did actually need to know that information because he needs to know who's behind him. So let's not pretend it was for no reason, but also let's have a giggle.
They had a little kiki.
Strategically relevant kiki.
So we're at this moment.
We're here. We're ready. I'm ready.
We're here. We're ready. Lando Norris is ahead of Oscar Piastri. He is told to pit. He says, shouldn't Oscar pit first?
Yeah.
To undercut Charles.
Right. Because they are still battling.
So he asks for Oscar to pit first. Oscar does. Nice, clean, quick pit stop. Lando comes in. There's an issue with one of the wheel guns or something. I don't know.
It was the left front.
Very slow pit stop.
Something like 5 seconds.
It's no Valtteri Bottas, but it's a slow pit stop.
It's long.
I, like many fans, including many Lando fans, think that is just a normal part of racing luck. Shit luck for Lando 2 weekends in a row. Sucks. I guess he's going to get P3. No. What does fuck-ass McLaren do?
It's so stupid.
They come on the radio and tell Oscar Piastri to give up the place. And you know what? In the past, I've not really been with you when you've said, Oscar, get up. Oscar, have some dog in you. I'm full fucking on board now.
Welcome to the party.
Because what the fuck are you doing, Oscar Piastri?
Welcome to the party.
And also, an element of this that I can't believe no one is talking about is, how is this still allowed? How is this level of
so glad you brought this up.
Orders allowed? I remember going back and watching fucking Fernando Alonso and Felipe Massa get hammered for hours by the press at the mere suggestion that Ferrari instituted team orders, because it was so unheard of and against the rules.
I think a lot of people forget. And we say this as, F1 fans who, grew up being a part of it, when we were kids, but not really watching and watching it in the last 5 years. It's not exactly common knowledge that team orders used to be fully against the rules.
Yes.
Fully against the rules. There would be all of this coded language, when they get on the radio now and say plan A, plan B, that used to all be the same coded language that they would use for team orders.
They would say Fernando Alonso is taking plan B, and Felipe Massa would get out of the way.
Right, exactly.
For the abortion.
As one does. We love nationalized healthcare. And I think that is so key to this, because were you watching F1 TV or Sky?
What kind of question is that?
Great. The F1 TV commentators, I think it was so interesting watching them.
They were really taken aback.
They were not happy about it. I think DC specifically was incredibly, incredibly open with how difficult he found it to watch.
Yes.
And I I don't really like DC that much as a commentator.
Yeah.
I think he can be really aggressive and, I'm not the biggest fan. He says what he feels and what he thinks, and that's all you can really ask for in commentary. I loved his perspective on this because his point was this is a really dangerous precedent to set. And I'm not sure how I, as a fan, feel watching a team decide a race.
They are manipulating the results of a race.
Exactly.
In a way that is completely unnecessary.
And it's races like these and worse examples. Like, I'm not trying to say that this is the worst example of it, but it's races like these that are the reasons there were rules introduced against team orders, because it kind of ruins the sanctity of the racing.
You think about F1's biggest controversy.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Which is Singapore 2008. This is a race that is being litigated in court to this day. In the year of our Lord 2025, Felipe Massa is in a courtroom and God knows where, arguing that because of the race in Singapore in 2008, he should be the World Drivers' Championship in 2008.
Right.
I don't understand how in a little over 20 years, we've gone from that to being the biggest, most shameful incident of cheating in sports history, to all of a sudden being fine and dandy, with McLaren essentially deciding and manipulating the results of not only a race, but the championship.
It's so frustrating because when this whole papaya rules thing was introduced last year, this is what people were worried about.
Yeah. Well, and I think Oscar made it very well known in the way that he could at the time that this was an incident that they had discussed in these so-called papaya rules, which is, he said, I thought that a slow pit stop was just considered racing.
Well, and Lando disputed that afterwards.
Of course he fucking did.
No, I know. Lando specifically was like, well, yeah, we've talked about it. If I had a slow pit stop and Oscar came out in front of me and there were 3 cars in between us, like, of course, Oscar's not going to give me back the place. And it's like, that's not, I actually don't think that matters.
And them too, comparing it to Hungary last year, I don't think Lando should have moved over for Oscar back then.
No, that's the whole point.
Like, they're saying, oh, well, now it's even because of Hungary. I thought that was a stupid fucking mistake when Lando got out of the way for Oscar. I said that guy will never be World Drivers' Champion if he does shit like that. Max would have never moved out of the way.
And we know that now. Max has said that. He said it to Dutch interviewers. Like, we've seen it, and we saw it years ago.
We saw it when he was battling for P6.
We saw it after he'd already clinched the championship.
We saw it when he was in fucking Toro Rosso.
Yeah. One thing about Max is that he's Max. I was reading I think it was like an ESPN piece about it. And they basically, essentially, McLaren was like, and Andrea Stella were like, yep, no, we don't see anything wrong with what happened, which is concerning in of itself. And also just like comments that they both made is that like they're protecting, I think Oscar said something along the lines of like, well, this is how we do it at McLaren. And like this, I'm, by doing this, I'm protecting the culture of fairness and the culture that this team has really invested in. And it's like,
at McLaren?
I just take the nuance of McLaren out of it, take the nuance of it being Lando and it being Oscar out of it. I don't watch racing to watch you guys protect the culture of your team.
This is a complete revisionist history of the culture of McLaren.
And it's so interesting because Andrea Stella said something about like, well, this is a culture we've really built at McLaren. And it's like, I'm less interested in like going and looking back at like McLaren 15 years ago compared to now. And I understand that's like very, very different. There are 2 very different McLarens. I totally get that. I am more interested in the picture it paints of this not being a team interested in having racers and that it's a team interested in racing. That concerns me.
I think that it is indefensible to say we are protecting the sanctity of teamwork when the team element of this entire sport has been sewn up for months. You have won the Constructors' Championship. There is no challenger to the Constructors' Championship.
And that's what's so stupid is they're like, well, we don't understand why like you guys want us to risk like the Constructors. And it's like, well,
the Constructors is not at risk.
You're fine. Just fucking race.
Oscar could take Lando out and neither of them could finish. And not only would the championship not be really all that affected, the Constructors certainly wouldn't be affected.
Absolutely not.
So I don't give 2 shits. People are saying, well, it's a team sport. No, Number one,
It
no,
actually
it's
very
fucking
much
not.
isn't.
It is not.
Very much isn't.
It is very much not a team sport. Never has been, never will be. Number two, it certainly isn't a team sport when the Constructors' Championship has been sewn up for months. Then it is all racing.
I don't know. It's just, I think it's sad because I don't know how you as a racer recover from this if your entire mentality is focused on the team. Like, where do you go from that? Because as a racer, you need to be utterly convinced that you deserve everything. You need to be fixated on the fact that this championship is yours to lose, and anyone who threatens that, you don't need in your life. Like,
Also,
I'm not saying it's healthy, but this is the way that the championship works. I think it's sad for the state of racing. I think you're essentially neutering the sport.
yeah, that's a good word for it, neutering.
It's soulless.
The other thing is, too, is that it continues to perpetuate this narrative about Lando that he has not earned anything.
I completely agree.
If I were Lando, I wouldn't want this to be happening because it just perpetuates this narrative that the championship is being handed to him by McLaren.
So then what happens if he wins it this year? It's
I don't
not
think
real.
I don't think it's fraudulent by any matter. This is not
But it's
comparable.
not fraudulent.
It's not comparable in any way to 21 or 2008, but it is not a earned championship, and that is incredibly disappointing.
I completely agree.
The one thing that I've always agreed with when it comes to like talk about 2021 is that the wrong person won the race, but the right person won the championship.
Yeah.
Right now, the wrong person is being forcibly pushed into championship contention in a way that I think F1 needs to take a step back and say, do we need to reinstitute rules against team orders? Because this manipulation of the race is so fucking disgusting to me. It really is.
It's an insult to the sport, if I'm being completely honest.
It's a bastardization of the sport. It really is.
It's so fucking frustrating.
What's been heartening, too, is seeing the majority of F1 fans for once being in unison about this.
Well, and it's frustrating because I'm sure as a Lando fan, you want confirmation. We just had this conversation about Mark last week. I want someone to be fighting with Mark at the front. So at the very least, people can look at the season and say, okay, well, not only is he, generationally that talented, but at least it's validated against someone else.
I mean, I would want that as a Lando fan because so far, every single thing we've seen from Lando is that he is not comparable to Oscar.
Well, and that's the thing. You think you would want that as a Lando fan. You don't want to spend the rest of your time being in like the F1 space, constantly defending this championship that like there's a good chance he may win.
Knock on wood.
And it's not even that subjectively, I agree with you. And I think the wrong person is being pushed in this way. Objectively, we don't know that he's the wrong person. McLaren has never given him the chance.
That's so right. That's so true.
To prove that he is the person who should win this championship.
Let him prove he's the person to win this championship and make him fucking overtake Oscar on track if he's so upset about a slow pit stop.
Yeah, that's your job.
You're in an illegal car.
And he's got fresher tires. Like, I don't understand.
Right. Get it done on track.
Well, the whole thing about Hungary is like that was embarrassing back last year was that they hadn't quite quantified what the PIA rules were. So Lando thought it meant that Oscar wasn't going to overtake him. And Oscar thought it meant racing was allowed just with a lot less risk than you would race anyone else. And it's like that disconnect, I think, tells me more about the two of them than anything else.
And the mentality of them.
Right. I don't know how else to say it, but like, Oscar, get the fuck up.
No, truly.
I don't understand.
It's so stupid.
And then to end the weekend with the Tifosi in Ferrari's backyard screaming for Max.
And booing Lando Norris.
And booing the McLarens is fucking crazy.
No, specifically, I want to be clear. Booing Lando Norris. Because the Tifosi and the people at Monza were pissed too. That
really?
They paid to come see a race. So I had a friend in Monza this weekend watching the race. She said that people were booing when that moment happened. Because when you pay a shit ton of money to go to Monza and see a race,
you don't go to watch it be fixed.
Fucking racing.
Yeah.
Especially at fucking Monza, the temple of speed, the holy temple of speed that is Monza.
Yeah, like on some level, they performed sacrilege.
They spit on Monza.
They spit in the face of like every sacred moment that's ever happened there. And I'm not even being facetious.
No.
That's crazy. Imagine having the level of disrespect for like not only racing, but also the history of Monza.
Senna, a McLaren driver.
Niki Lauda. I don't know, man.
They're specifically booing Lando, and that's a very important point. And I think that booing was earned. He should have refused.
I agree. Look what McLaren dominance has done to us.
Sickening.
It's ruined us. What do we have next week?
Nothing.
Oh my God. Week off? Wow. Oh, because we have Baku in 2 weeks.
Max Verstappen is going to Nordschleife. He has to race in a lower level series before he can race GT3. And he has to take a practice exam and like a theory exam.
Rookie Max Verstappen.
No, literally. Rookie of the year, Max Verstappen.
Oh. Well, then we'll talk predictions for Baku next week. And then is he going to the Nordschleife this weekend?
I think so.
We'll talk about it this weekend then.
Anyways, I think that brings us to the grid as ... which for the uninitiated is a moment in our podcast where we categorize a handful of riders and drivers from across the great wide world of motorsport as a person, place, thing, concept, idea. And because we are heading to Italy in MotoGP and leaving Italy in F1, we are going to do the grid as Italian landmarks. Okay, so I would like to go first. My first pick is Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is the Tower of Pisa. Really old, somewhat unstable.
Little fucked up.
My second pick is Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is Pompeii because he is fucking lethal.
That's hot.
And he's hot and explosive.
Yeah. I like it. I love it.
And he leaves everyone frozen and petrified in his wake.
I mean, Charles Leclerc is the Vatican.
Yeah, the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
Lando Norris bonus is the Trevi Fountain because the only way he's getting a world championship is on a fucking wish.
Oh, that's a good one. For me, I'm going to go with Pecco Bagnaia as the forum because he is so just like, he needs everything to be like lined up perfectly. And I think that is where they did all of their like debating and pontificating and like, no, for governmental bullshit. And that's Pecco.
Yeah, I can see it. Also, probably a few stabbings.
I mean, what did Brutus say about whatever, you know?
No, Brutus is an honorable man.
Right. But Brutus says he was ambitious.
Yep, but Brutus says he was ambitious. And as we all know, Brutus is an honorable man.
Quick sidetrack into Shakespeare's side.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
Pecco kind of looks like Shakespeare.
Anne Hathaway would probably date him. Okay. So Mark is the Church of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. It's in Rome, and in Italian is the Chiesa di Santa Maria Immacolata. My accent is horrible, so bear with me. This is a historic church of the Capuchins, a Catholic order from the 16th century, and the church is covered in bones.
Okay, I see how we've gotten here. Okay.
The church is covered in bones.
Okay. I wasn't with you, now I'm with you.
Yeah, lots of skeletons and bones.
Yeah.
And Mark's bones are fucked up and he keeps hurting them. So that's how we got there.
Yeah. All right.
I will say, I feel like Lewis Hamilton could be the Spanish Steps. I don't know. There's just something very like cinematic about it.
Lewis Hamilton is Hilary Duff saying, hey now in Rome.
Totally.
Anyways, that brings us to the end of the podcast. Like we said, next week we will talk about Misano, maybe Max Verstappen's adventures at the Nordschleife, and anything else that tickles our fancy. Come hang out with us on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. We have a lot of fun. Or on our website, MotoMouths.com. We have merch. It's very cute. Make sure to like, share, rate, review, comment, engage with in any way, shape, or form on the podcast. It helps us grow. We really appreciate it. We love and cherish every single interaction we get. And let's keep chatting soon.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.